Hi, guys. Good evening. Thank you, Ali, for such a generous welcome. Again, my name is Natasha, and I am so honored to be here with you guys tonight as your moderator. I mean, how amazing to see so many friends. I mean, my mom is here, you guys. How? My mom of 5 kids. So thanks, Mom, for being here tonight. Thank you, Jeannie, coming off of that beautiful meditation. I just want to reiterate that this is a safe space, and we've created a space where you can feel, listen with your hearts, and truly, fully be present. So here we are. Before we introduce each of our 5 panelists, we're going to start with asking a question to each of them. We're going to start with, what are 3 words you use to describe yourself? And what are 3 words that describe how society perceives you? And everyone can do this while they're answering. Katie, you want to just go down?
3 words of how I describe myself. I'd say business owner, feminist, mother.
And then the 3 words that describe how society perceives you.
Feminist. Me personally, I would say probably, feminist, a mother, a woman.
Okay.
I don't know about womankind, but that's for me personally.
Cool. And we'll just keep going down the row, and then we'll sum it up at the end.
So 3 words that I describe myself. A creative, explorer, and some combination of those 2. Can't think of it right now. Society, how it looks at me. There's the dual conversation. Black man, brown man, question mark. But I think overall society just views me as a man, somebody as simple as that.
3 words that I would use to describe myself would be fierce, authentic, and loyal. 3 words that I feel how society would describe me. If I'm taking a negative lens, I like to think that society thinks of me in a positive lens. If I'm taking the negative approach, though, would be aggressive, a millennial, and of color.
3 words that I would describe myself are strong, capable, and independent. And for what I think society thinks of me, soft-spoken, very sweet, which I am sweet, and masculine. I'm very queer, though, but yeah, I definitely I think just based off my appearance, people think I'm very masculine.
I would say that society I perceive myself as an aspiring entrepreneur, inquisitive, and kind. I would say that society perceives me as a multi-time entrepreneur, successful, and hopefully also kind.
Okay, so for me, I had to do this exercise as well. And so I would describe myself as a connector, a believer, and someone that's truly passionate. The way I think society perceives me is Asian, a woman, and probably type A. And so what came up for me in doing this exercise and why we started with asking the panelists this is that clearly there's a disconnect on how we describe ourselves and how society perceives us. And we all have the power inside of us to change how society perceives us. But it really truly starts with here, and that is finding your true worth. And that is really what tonight is all about. Up here tonight, we have 5 panelists with very different backgrounds, all with a very different story, and all come from different industries. But what keeps them, or what they have all in common, is that they share this curiosity to define their self-worth, and to live and embody that worth, and then to also then recognize that worth in others. So the goal for tonight is for each of you to see yourself a little bit in each of the panelists. Listen to their stories of unworthiness and how they overcame that, and take away some tools on, how you can define your self-worth and see the worth in others. Okay? So with further ado, now we're going to actually introduce each of you. Why don't we just go straight down? Katie's going to start with an introduction, and the first question is really about share a time where you've felt unworthy and what has held you back.
So introduce myself and then.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. I know it's a full.
It's a lot of questions
I
at once,
basically
that's fine.
compiled 3 into 1.
I feel
Get it
nice
all
and
out.
relaxed from that meditation. That was really nice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so my name's Katie Hintz-Zambrano. I have 2 companies. The first is mothermag.com, which is a cool and modern parenting site, and I started that almost 4 years ago. And then last year I launched my second company, because I've definitely been bitten by that San Francisco entrepreneurial bug. And it's called In Good Company, and it is a conference, an annual conference, and also event series for creative entrepreneurial mothers. So it's a very segmented demo. And a time when I felt unworthy, I would say, is before the entrepreneurship really hit. I think I felt like I didn't have an idea that was worthy enough to bring to fruition. And I think I was working before I moved on to starting my own thing, I was working for like a really trendy website, which some of you probably know, I won't say the name, but, and I think I was kind of resting on the laurels or like the cool points that site gave me, and maybe didn't feel secure enough to like launch into my own thing and just be kind of bare and standing out there. So I think I didn't maybe feel worthy of like true independence in that way.
And by holding yourself back, what wasn't possible? What wasn't possible?
What wasn't possible? I think true happiness and true freedom, that's what I've always really wanted. And I think for me, freedom and happiness are very much linked. So being underneath somebody else has always just not worked for me. I get a bad attitude after like a year and a half and when I'm at any company. So I think, this was the path for me, but I wasn't quite ready to get there. Some of you might.
Sounds like what stopped you is like living out your true vision.
Yeah, just being scared.
Yeah. Morgan, I feel like you can totally relate being the serial entrepreneur you are yourself as well.
Sure.
Can you go next?
Yeah, so I've started 3 different companies, the most recent of which is Cora. It's a company based here in San Francisco, and we make basically better period products for women. We also, we also, and a big part of that is that we also use our consumptive power as Americans to give products to girls in need so they can stay in school during their periods. So I think for me, what held me back was really sort of confidence, but tied to ego. So I think especially coming out of the first, and second ventures, which had at least outwardly, were perceived, I think, successful. I knew I had this idea for Cora through my wife, who's kind of like, I guess, my muse. And I knew it was a problem that needed solving. I knew I had kind of the skills and the experience to really make a meaningful contribution. But I think my ego was kind of getting in the way, and I didn't have the confidence really to know if I could be a male going out and working in the period space. And so I think really what that did was hold me back from executing, which I think is like one of my best skills, is that I just execute above all else, and that's always like my path forward. And it really held me back, and I think as a result, I started Cora 12 months after I really should have.
Yeah, awesome. Jen, being in leadership, for you, why don't you go next?
Sure. Hi, Jen Casimiro. I am a second-generation Filipino woman. I like to put that into my introduction. I have my family of matriarchs behind in the crowd. In terms of worthiness and what's held me back is I believe that our culture has conditioned us to compare ourselves to each other. So as I grew up, I grew up in a place of pretty much privilege, but I was always comparing my happiness, the way that I look, the way that I show up, my success, how much I was making to that of others. And what that held me back from was my true potential. I learned to really lean in and lead with my heart, but until I got to that place of recognizing I'm comparing myself to other people, I never would have gotten to that place and never would have been able to say, it doesn't matter what anybody else is doing, I need to look inward.
And earlier tonight, we were talking about how that relates to feeling worthy of happiness. Can you share a little bit about what that means to you?
It's so cliche, it's so funny, because I believe that worth is connected to happiness, and I was always measuring that to how everyone else thought of happiness. So I found myself actually performing what happiness looked like based on how everyone else was doing. So I was in this mode of I'm gonna act this way, that way I can get validation from everyone else, you seem happy. So that was really holding me back from understanding what true happiness looked like for me.
Thank you. Melissa.
Hi, everyone. I'm Melissa King. I'm a Bay Area chef here in San Francisco, and I'm also a chef ambassador for Whole Foods Market, and I was on a TV show called Top Chef, and placed as a finalist on that, repping the Bay Area. But for me, I think what held me back a lot in my younger years was constantly wanting acceptance and also the worth of confidence in whether or not I chose the right career path for myself. I had wanted to cook since I was a kid, and I had my family sort of a bit against my decisions. And it took a lot of years of thinking I needed to prove to them, and get their acceptance. And also, I think the acceptance of being a queer woman in the world, I think I struggled with that for a while in my younger years as well.
Ricardo. Sorry, he has two names. It's really confusing. Ricardo, we had an interesting conversation tonight about worthiness and the energy of people, and feeling that when you were a young kid. I'd love for you to share that with everyone tonight.
Cool. So my name is Ricardo Richey, or also known as Apexer, San Francisco. A San Francisco native, and I paint a lot of public murals and artwork around the city, around the country and world. It's something that I have to do and get out there and give back to the community. But growing up as a kid, if we all kind of think about as we were children, very young, worth wasn't really something that was of concern. And as a young kid, I grew up in a large family. And in that large family, it was kind of more of the whip was being cracked, do your work, do your homework, do your chores, get everything done. And very quickly, my brain was wait a minute, if I do all that, I could do what I want to do. And the family, when my time came, they would really let me do whatever I wanted to do, long as it, didn't destroy anything. So that, at a very young age, allowed me to know that I thought of an idea and I created it at a young age. And to move through life and society and growing older, it became always a question of why are other people projecting onto me something other than who I am. So my worth was always intact, but it was always I had to look around me and say oh, these other things are coming towards me. And that always became a question that I tried to answer as I got older. And it became something that later, it made me go back to the kid. And the adult experiences communicate to the kid inside of me, and let those two communicate back and forward to really help me walk through this world, and to then also be able to relate to other people and not have it be an issue for me or for the other people, but something for me to communicate and how to navigate through this world.
Thank you. First, I just want to thank you guys, like, all for sharing so vulnerably. Talking through worth is not easy. Allie texted me 2 weeks ago to moderate this event, and I jumped at the opportunity and said, of course, like, I'm totally down to get other people to talk about their self-worth. Little did I realize that I also had to do some self-work and, define where I felt worthy and unworthy. And for me, I struggled with feeling worthy of success. And, instead of feeling worthy of success, I felt doubt, fear, a lot of I'm not good enough along the way. And that really stopped me from living out my vision, like what Katie was saying about Mother Mag, and really going after my dream of opening a store. And it wasn't until my business partner, Daniel, who's actually closing up shop tonight, thanks Daniel, if it wasn't for him, he's really the one who believed in me and gave me the courage to start Seldom Seen. And at times, it helped that Daniel saw the worth when I didn't see the worth in me. And that was a very defining moment, and I am forever grateful for him because of that. And so there are many defining moments that help us make that shift of feeling unworthy, of confidence, of ego, of acceptance, of happiness. Katie, as a fellow woman entrepreneur, what was that defining moment for you that helped you make that shift so that you could start Mother Mag?
I kind of talked about unworthiness, and I didn't feel like I had an idea that was worthy of bringing to fruition. And I think that issue was solved immediately after I had my child. A lot of people experience creative sparks at different times. For me, motherhood was a big link there. And I came up with this idea for the website days after I had him. I found myself on different websites that I just wasn't relating to, and I was like, is there anything out here for me? And since I realized there wasn't, I was like, I think this is it. I think I'm the one that has to do this, and I see this big void in the market. So I had the idea, and but I wasn't quite ready to quit the day job, And then kind of the universe helped me out, and my company ended up, for ridiculous reasons, but kind of eliminating my position, and that helped me. I was like, oh, they just pushed me off the diving board. It was kind of maybe not the right reasons why they did that, but I think in the end I was like, I'm not going to fight it, because this is actually what I really wanted. And so that really helped me get past, I had the great idea, and then to kind of be forced to be like, okay, what else is stopping you? So
Trust
I think that
in the
answered
universe.
it. Yeah,
And
I think so. Yeah.
Cool.
Ricardo?
Melissa, actually, I wanted to quickly ask you, because a very completely different industry. With someone was struggling with, in your past, with worthy of acceptance and confidence, walk us through your emotional process for applying on Top Chef.
Well, I guess I'll back it up a little. So I had wanted to cook since I was 5 and was always helping out my mom at home. But my parents didn't want me to pursue this industry at all for their reasons, and because it's a crazy industry. And so I don't know, I think a part of me just always wanted to prove to them. I wanted to prove to them something more, and that this is what I'm passionate about, and this is I can succeed in this. But it's hard when someone's constantly on you thinking maybe you're not good enough. So I applied for Top Chef and went through this process of interviews, in front of network executives, and just something that I was completely terrified of doing. Like even like public speaking, like right now, I would have never done this years ago because I was extremely shy. So I just put myself in this situation that I completely dreaded, and went through the motions, and next thing you know, I got on the show, and then I got flown out to Boston to compete. And I went through this 9-week journey of filming this show and competing, and really, I thought I was doing it for my family, and I thought I was doing it to prove something to my friends. But really, in the end, I placed as a finalist, and I'm extremely proud of that. And it was something that I ended up realizing, like, I'm doing this for myself. And I came out a stronger person. Now I am comfortable doing stuff like this. I don't know, it just breaks you out of your shell when you do something that you're completely terrified of.
I can totally relate. I think it's
Yeah.
like getting out of your comfort zone, being uncomfortable. That gives you the space to really find your strength and find your self-worth.
Absolutely. Challenging yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like even the 2.5 years I've owned Seldom Seen, I'm like, okay, I just got to get comfy with being uncomfortable
Yep. Yeah.
every damn day.
And it gets easier. You realize,
does.
like,
It totally
I'm a
does.
stronger person from putting myself in these vulnerable situations.
Yeah.
So,
Cool. Thanks.
yeah.
And then, do you want to take it next?
Sure.
Morgan? What was your defining moment, or share a tool that helped you overcome feeling unworthy of confidence as you built a brand all about women,
Sure.
being a man?
Yeah, so maybe not surprisingly, I think for me it was two things. One was two women, two really strong women. So my wife and then my co-founder Molly Hayward. So my wife has been, she kind of was the one who I think probably in retrospect was like really patient while I was a house husband thinking over Cora until I had the confidence to actually do it. And then I think as I finally, through a lot of her support and encouragement, had the confidence to begin executing, met Molly, who was working on the same concept at the same time. So I probably, really needed her in that journey. And, have, continue to rely on her daily. And in terms of a tool I kind of mentioned that I think, I kind of pride myself on execution beyond all else. So I think we rarely fail from doing the wrong thing. We fail from doing no thing. So I decided just to put one foot in front of the other and begin executing. And I figured I could always, quit or give up a few steps later, which of course hasn't happened yet. So.
So just like the support of people, right? Having your tribe with you.
Yeah,
to
and
get
just
you
being
forward.
willing to listen to the people around you who are supportive.
Yep, totally. That was my Daniel for me. Jen, we actually had this conversation earlier tonight, and I think a great tool that you shared was something in leadership development. So could you share that?
With that, I realized I forgot to say what I do. I work in learning and development and in the spaces of diversity, equity, and inclusion. In terms of that shifting point, which is also related to my tool or my resource, is I recognize that it wasn't until somebody gave me the space to actually explore who I was and what worthiness looked like, was that I made that shift. So to me, obviously, I work in learning and development. I'm biased towards this, is that the best resource that you have are people. They're like within this room itself, there's hundreds of life experiences that we can pull from. And it's really about creating space for people to be vulnerable, to be authentic. Again, to my point of having to live in this place where we have to compare ourselves to one another. When folks gave me this safe space to be like, how are you? Who are you? What triggers you? How do you get a little bit more intimate with your insecurities, with your fears? And how does that inform your identity? And how do you own that? I learned that insecurities aren't opposites of confidence, that I could be very much insecure, but I could also be very much confident. And if it wasn't for the people creating space for me to do that, I would have never gotten there. So it's kind of my life journey and making sure that I'm creating space for other folks to kind of step into that.
Cool. Always goes back to people. Sometimes when I'm really scared, though, to talk to people, I journal a lot. That's like my little, like, gotta talk to myself. And then I'm like, okay, I'm ready to talk to other people now. Ricardo, for you, I think I love what you shared earlier with me tonight about meditation and mindfulness and how that has helped you in shifting. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so growing up, it was always this chaotic motion, TVs on, family members, and I always was seeking my own space. I was always trying to find somewhere to go, like, hide in a corner of the house just so I could go sketch. And as an adult, I've learned to meditate. I learned to almost all day if I can. If it's wake up in the morning and you know that moment where you're asleep and then you know that you're in your body again, but your eyes aren't open, I keep the eyes closed. And then I just kind of like navigate, like, oh, well, you know, what are we doing? Remember that little kid I talked to inside of me? You know, hey, what are we doing today? What's going on? You know, what do we have to do? Oh, you don't really want to talk to anybody right now. You know, like there's a whole conversation that goes on.
Dialogue.
There's a whole inner dialogue and conversation that happens to get me ready for the day so that I'm centered when I go out into the world. And then when I'm in the world, it then allows me to be centered to help navigate around other people. And that mindfulness is something that I try to carry through. And then even on, if I'm painting a mural that's a 10 to 14 hour day of just painting straight, I've trained into that to meditate through that whole process. That allows me to be quiet inside and allows me to observe my surroundings and to take that in and then be able to communicate with my surroundings, communicate with people. It's something that really grounds me and helps me.
Yeah, I'm sure it allows you to tap into that worth.
Yes.
Yeah,
definitely.
for sure. So, thank you guys. So we all know that, you know, we all struggle with feeling unworthy. We're all human, and we're not all alone in that. And so I think that's like reassuring. And taking that one step further now is, now that we've embodied this self-worth, now how do we now see and recognize that worth in others? And that's where I want to take the conversation to. And I think Morgen, working at Cora, I'd love to have you kick us off with that, because you being a man in a woman's world, with a company's mission and focus on helping others, how has seeing your full worth helped you put women first?
Yeah, so I think, you know, maybe just, I think there are a lot of things we do as a company that are way more impressive than what I do, but personally, I think a big part of it was putting a lot of faith and trust into people for their ability to kind of deliver before what was on their resume. So I think, you know, some of the top members of the team have zero experience, like literally zero, and they contribute just as much as the rest of us and those of us with, you know, with fancy degrees. So I think kind of building out that team that fits together, and maybe there's a little bit of discomfort in this, but we're not all alike. So I think there's a really natural division across the team of what everyone's strong suit is. And then for me, as kind of the you know, primary leader of the team, I think the really big thing was realizing that I don't have to have all the answers. I don't have to be right, and in fact, most of the time I'm not, but that's okay, because I have a team who usually can come up with the right answer. And so I think there's a lot of kind of freedom in that, and being able to truly trust and empower other people.
Yeah. Awesome. I was sharing with you earlier today about, like, you know, focusing on your internal world and what a person can give internally versus necessarily what's on your resume. That's like very two different things. So, Ricardo, I was snooping. Actually, Sophie was snooping, and then I snooped after on the DeYoung website, and there's a video of you painting your mural of A Summer of Love. And you say, As a kid, it was the first type of art that I saw. It was important to me that I do public art because I know that there are kids that are going to see that first. Tell us more about your inspiration for Summer of Love and share how has living your worth impacted the SF community through your art, because it is beautiful.
Woo, big, artful question there.
I mean, you should have saw that video. It was good.
Well, for me, growing up as a kid in the city, and I always had my head out the window. You know, I was always looking around, observing my surroundings, and what is that? Taking it in, and I've learned to like not let that go. And you know, I grew up in a family that was a middle-class family, but we never went to a museum. We never went to a gallery show, which then starts to make me think about what other cultural things do most people not experience growing up. You know, you have parents that have the right intentions, but that might not be there. So for me, it's kind of like my give back as an adult, very conscious of it, of yes, I need to create this public art that speaks and it balances the landscape, the equation of visual landscape that's out there, where it provokes you to think, it provokes you to feel. It's abstract, it's colorful. Why did that person create it? How did they create it? I want people to ask questions, take moments, and then give back. For the Summer of Love mural, it was a great opportunity talking about going to museums. It was at the De Young Museum. I think it was like King Tut or something came out. You know, it was like these major shows, and then like America is going to the museum to see that show, and that's where like my parents would go to the show. And so for me to turn back around, and the De Young Museum wanted to hire me to paint the Summer of Love mural, 50-year anniversary here in San Francisco. It was something that I really wanted, and to talk about like empowering others in that process, it was something that I wanted to pull all these different experiences and visual languages that were part of the Summer of Love, that were part of the fabric of San Francisco. So the mural has the what most people know is like the Fillmore style lettering for the poster. Like that's how I spelled out Summer of Love is in that style. Behind it, I use a little bit of my style, but way more of a tip of a hat off to the old overhead projection paintings that they used to do with in water, and then they'll let the projector heat up the water in the oil, and then they'll play some trippy music to it. and for me, you know, like I love instrumental music, so it all came together. Like I went to the opening, and I got to meet like some of those poster makers, and I got to meet some of the overhead projecting guys, and they saw the mural, and we had like a moment, this connecting moment from that generation to my generation.
Yeah, it's amazing when, I mean, it's a clear example of how you seeing your worth and putting the worth in others and seeing the success come all together.
Yeah, like I appreciate their worth and what they put out there.
Yep.
That then it allows me the freedom to continue to express my worth.
Yep,
And,
exactly.
And you know, to say yes, it's appropriate for me to honor. It really becomes I need to honor them with the work that I'm putting out.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. Katie, like we chatted earlier about the work you're doing and seeing the worth in moms, especially with in good company. Would you like to share more about that?
Yeah, I think actually both of my companies, I'm super passionate about kind of redefining what the mom label means. I think people think it's like lame or like, you know, just like moms, like, I don't know, just get slapped on things. It's like not, you know, and it's really just like, these are really incredible women that are also doing an extra job that's one of the most important jobs ever, which is like raising the next generation. And so I don't know why people dumb down that term or group moms into one big category either. So I think with the website, obviously we're trying to create community around, I'd say it's like this new motherhood group, which is millennial moms and also Gen X moms that view themselves as a mom and passionate about motherhood, but also often passionate about other things and have a lot of value even outside of motherhood. So I think that that's a change in demographic, and we're really excited to just embrace that. And then within Good Company, it's a celebration of entrepreneurship and women. So I think that, I really live and breathe both the demographic of our website and then also of my conference. Like, I am an entrepreneurial woman that happens to be a mom, and I'm also a creative entrepreneur. And a lot of people think that if you work in a creative field, then your business is like not a real business, and that you're not really trying to like pay your bills through it. People think it's like a hobby if you do something creative. So I think I definitely saw a void in the market for getting women together that are in creative professions or might err on that side. Really, all professions are a little bit creative, right? But and also, there's a lot of sobering statistics around female entrepreneurs. For example, only 2% of female-owned, or only 2% of businesses that are female-owned ever make it past the $1 million revenue mark, which is just pretty astounding. Women don't have as much access to funding and mentorship and all that stuff. So I just wanted to do my part to, I'm trying to do it. I see a lot of other women trying to do it, hundreds of thousands of women in my same boat. So I think I see what they're going through. I definitely know a lot about community building. So if I can get us together to share knowledge, I think that's really powerful, and I'll do whatever I can to kind of raise up the profile of women, mothers, female entrepreneurs, probably men someday,
Yes.
We'll see.
I think all the creative women
Yeah.
and moms out there are feeling empowered
Yeah,
and worthy
it's
because of
good-
what you've created.
Good time to be us. So.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Mel, Melissa, you shared that there's like a boys club in this like chef world. And so what do you do in your industry to promote women feeling empowered?
Yeah, there's definitely a boys club in the restaurant world. It's been like that for a long time, and I'm sure it's like that in a lot of other industries. But speaking to mine, I think right now it's just an important time to get together with other women and support them. If they have their restaurant and, like, hey, let's do an event together and let's try to form a community. And so I think that's just what I've been trying to do with a lot of the female chefs in my industry. Let's see. But yeah, I think that boys club mentality it needs to end.
Amen.
Yeah.
Awesome. How about for you, Jen? Like at IDEO right now, how has feeling worthy helped you to see the potential worth in others as you build programs at IDEO?
I'm going to speak to it a little bit in terms of like my personal approach.
Yeah. Great.
There's two things that come to mind for me in terms of how I'm owning my worth and then how am I creating space for others to kind of step into that. One is empathy. One of my mentors, his saying, which is really funny, but is that we all got healing. Like, we're all trying to figure it out. No one is 100% on, 100% like confident all of the time. So how can we be a little bit more empathetic to each other in the moments where like we're not showing up in our best way, or we are triggered, or we are mad? How do we create spaces for those moments to show up where we can be authentic, and I can be mad and I can be angry, but that's okay. And the second piece is around leadership development. So personal passion of mine, I started my career in it right after undergrad. And the first thing that I was taught was to unlearn what I thought leadership was and who I imagined it to be. So how could I create space for other ways of being a leader to show up, and how can I allow for other folks to do that? So I think that shows up in my job, that shows up in my mentorship, that shows up in my coaching, because allowing for people to see however you show up, you are already a leader. It's not somewhere where you need to get to. It is not a destination, but it is a process of getting to know yourself and how you show up and how you own that. So how can I create space for folks to ask questions around like, how are you doing? Like, when is the last time you actually asked someone, how are you doing, and waited to listen for more than 30 seconds, right? Something as powerful as that, giving empathy time of day for someone to like just be authentic and real in those moments, can allow for folks to like step into their worth and at least acknowledge the space of where they're at in those moments.
Yes. I feel like I do that every day at the store. You know, like when I'm saying, hey, welcome in, like, how are you? People are like, whoa, she's really asking me how I'm doing. I'm like, no, I'm really asking. Like, you know, it's not like, hey, yeah, I'm great, and then walking away. So I truly believe that being empathetic and seeing another person and hearing another person, that's all we really want as humans, right? Is be seen and heard. So yeah, I completely agree. Morgan, question for you. Explain a time, because I'm asking you this question because we had a conversation about it earlier too tonight, was explain a time where you witnessed or experienced inequality and didn't do anything about it. What came up for you?
Yeah, I think I was sharing that I was, definitely part of it. But at the first company I was part of, I remember like pretty distinctly when our first employee shared that she was pregnant, and kind of asked like what our policy was. And I think my first thought was incredibly selfish, which was like, wait, you're gonna leave and we're gonna pay you for that, right? And I think yeah, and I think fast forward to today, and at Cora, we have our first teammate who's pregnant, and I've spent like an incredible amount of time in the past 2 months thinking about what investments can we make to make sure she, has a really great, time, in pregnancy, having her child, and then transitioning back into the workplace, and how can we make that really smooth? And, kind of the opposite of my initial selfish reaction, which was like, protecting resources. But in this case, how do we use our resources to make sure she comes back and has a really good experience and will stay with us forever?
What was that shift for you?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was empathy, right? The first time around, I was 21 and just out of school, and was nowhere near thinking about what it meant to be part of like my own family or someone else's in my peer group. And I think now, over the kind of 12 years since, have had a lot more experience with building my own family, being surrounded by others, and seeing their experiences. Seeing friends at companies that have raised billions of dollars who don't get 3 months paid leave, right? Versus like Cora, we have almost no resources, and I'm happy to give 3 months paid leave. So I think there are just things that we can do every single day. But being empathetic with others around me has been the biggest difference.
Cool, thank you. We're about to open it to Q&A, but before we do, I just wanted to end this on a really positive note and just have each of our panelists complete the sentence, I am worthy of, and we can just go down the roll.
I am worthy of independence, freedom, happiness.
Cool, thank you.
I am worthy of anything.
Yeah.
I don't know how to follow that. Anything I say is like, I'm gonna be really inspiring right now, but then you like took that. So I'm gonna go with, what was the question? I am worthy of, okay.
Just complete the sentence.
Right, I am worthy of health and happiness.
I'm worthy of following my dream.
I'm worthy of being confident.
I am worthy of love, success, and joy. Cool. All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you guys so much for opening up and like leading this discussion and answering with your hearts. We really appreciate that. I just want to share something vulnerable really quick with you guys in the audience. I feel like I was sitting here listening to this, and I just wanted to share myself what I feel I'm worthy of. I don't feel worthy of having all of you in the room tonight. I am so grateful for all of you to be here, and I'm in awe of the fact that like San Francisco as a community shows up for this kind of conversation. It is fucking awesome. So give yourselves a round of applause. just so proud. So I just feel, I don't feel worthy of all you being here, so thank you, but thank you. I want to make 2 announcements before we begin our Q&A. First, I don't know if you guys know, but we also, this is Lululemon, and we made a beautiful t-shirt. Tosh is wearing one right now, and they're all being sold online, and all the proceeds go to organizations that empower women as a part of our Here to Be program. So you can check those out on lululemon.com. The second thing I want to make an announcement about is I want to make a big ask. You guys all have beautiful bandanas with your Worth 100 on them, and some temporary tattoos scattered around or not in the gift bags, stickers, and I'd love to see you guys share those tomorrow in honor of International Women's Day. It's tomorrow. So how are you wearing these, posting them around, putting them on your body, whatever you feel is appropriate, truly to bring about the conversation, like what are you doing tomorrow to bring this to your communities? So I want to hear from you. Hashtag Worth 100.